Welcome to episode... Oh crap, wait, what episode is it? 7? 7 of the Cox-tales podcast, where I have conversations over cocktails with friends. Today, I'm joined by my sister-in-law, Shelby.
Hi.
And we are I'm drinking a raspberry mule concocted of stuff we had in our cupboard, basically. And Shelby has got a G&T from Noco Distillery.
Hashtag Leif and Seabass.
Actually, hashtag Leif and Seabass. You're not going to hashtag their new worker? I can't remember her name.
Hashtag Mo.
I was thinking the event person, but...
Oh, I don't know.
I can't remember her name, so this is awkward if she listens to this. But no, as always, starting off, describe yourself with an event.
Ooh, okay. So I think I would be best described as like some big family get-together. They can be really warm and caring and fun-loving and silly, but like also bring the drama. And I like drama. That's good. I also think they can be a little awkward, which I definitely can be sometimes too. So I'm thinking, yeah, that's
surprising.
And surprising, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Lots of surprises.
There's always something crazy, which
something will come out of somewhere that you have no idea. Like either someone's story or a life experience that someone had been through. And you just was like, what?
Yes, yeah. Oh, that's the drama. I think there's always something crazy, and I can dabble in crazy for sure. I think that's fun.
Okay, so starting us off, I brought you on here for a specific reason because you are a nutritionist in the broad sense of things, but give more background and labels. You have too many numbers after your name?
Letters.
Too many letters after your name that I can't remember what they all stand for.
Yeah, so technically I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, which is different than a nutritionist for a variety of reasons. But I also am a certified specialist in obesity and weight management, so that's an area that I have additional training in.
What's the difference between nutrition and dietitian nutrition?
Yeah, actually it's like a really big deal in the dietitian world anyways. The difference is our education. Particularly in places like Colorado, you don't have to have a license to practice. So someone could take
as a nutritionist or a dietitian?
As a nutritionist.
Oh.
So someone could go online, take a 1-hour course, call themselves a nutritionist, and start.
Do you even have to take the 1-hour course?
No, not even. Yeah, and people write books all the time, and there's just no there's no
like
guidelines.
law.
Yeah, right.
There's no federal law?
No, so it's by state, and so here in Colorado there's no licensure. So the difference is to be a registered dietitian, I'm required to take accredited coursework through an accredited university. I'm required to pass a board exam. You have to do an internship with a set amount of hours. So there's a lot of training and expertise that goes into it, and in particularly a health conscious state like Colorado, there's a million people who think they're experts. Actually, everyone thinks they're experts because everyone eats, right? So everyone's an expert on food, it seems. But yes, I always like to make that designation because a lot of people call themselves a nutritionist that don't have even close to the type of training that.
And the board is a nationwide board.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's the Commission on Dietetic
Are there any?
Administration.
Do you know if there's states that make you have to be like, to be a registered nutrition, you have to be basically a dietitian nutritionist?
So technically, in all of the states that require licensure, you would still have to get a license, which means you'd have to have some kind of, accreditation or credential, essentially, in order to get that licensure. So it's much harder to do in those states.
Is that most?
Most. I think there's only 4 or 5 now that don't have licensure. So the majority do, but that's definitely something that we advocate for because licensure just protects us a little bit more, but not always. I mean, there's definitely things that fall through the crack, or ways that, people can do nutrition without calling themselves, a nutritionist. So yeah, it's kind of a slippery slope.
What would you be if you finished your master's?
So I have my master's finished. I have a master's in food science and human nutrition.
I thought you had to do your research.
So that'd be
PhD. Sorry,
to finish my PhD.
PhD,
I've completed my coursework in my PhD coursework, but I never completed a dissertation.
Do you just get PhD after your name? Is that
yeah. So right now I'm an MS, being Master of Science, RDN, and so if it was a doctor, then it'd just be a PhD RDN. Do
you have to take a different board certification?
No, as a dietitian,
you just get given it.
It changes. You end up being they do it by levels. You're a level 1 dietitian, level 2. So as you get additional
you just automatically get bumped up.
Yeah, you just are a different level. So even as a master's, because you don't have to have a master's.
I'm guessing like higher the number, higher the level.
Yeah,
the
right,
better.
right. So, and they've just changed this actually, but like when I did my undergraduate, I did an undergraduate program to become a dietitian. And so as soon as I got my bachelor's degree, I could take the board exam. Now they've just changed the legislation that you have to have a master's degree. So they're shifting all the coursework to be master's level.
What level are you?
So I should be a level 2. Because I have my master's. I don't know if it goes up to 3 or 4. I'm not sure.
I mean, I feel like there has to be 3 because that's PhD, I'm presuming.
Because I believe my new credential, my certification in weight management and obesity, should bump me to the level 2, which would be on par with an additional, some kind of additional.
What would 4 be?
I don't know.
Years practicing? But that doesn't necessarily mean you're better.
Yeah, and I don't know because it's all based on how they recommend, the pay scale and show the averages across different states. So I'm not actually really that familiar with it, but years of experience is one way you go up. Additional specialty areas, so like this credential, additional education, like I don't know if master's or PhD.
Like you would go to like a specialist, but I don't know if it'd bump up your overall level unless you had like all the specialties like covered. I feel like it shouldn't bump you up.
Yeah, so it does because
you could be like a level 3 in obesity, weight management or something, but I feel like you shouldn't be a level 3 overall for just specializing.
That's the reason it does that though, is because some of these credentials, I mean, they require like thousands of hours.
Yeah, yours was ridiculous.
Yeah,
you were stressed for
ages. It's an exam, right, which is really difficult. You have to recertify every 5 years. You have to study and retake the test, but more
just the most recent one, not all the ones you had to take to get there, right?
Right, like those trainings and stuff. Yeah, because you don't even.
I was like, because you've probably taken like 3, because you had your original one to get board certified, then you had the one you just took. If you had to take all of them again, you'd suck.
But yeah, they're not all required to get the credential. They didn't have the credential when I started. It's a brand new credential, and so I did those trainings because it was an area that I was passionate about, and so I just did them as a way to like build my knowledge to prepare, basically. But you could go straight in and say, I'm going to go study and do the hours.
Yeah.
But I also had to turn in verification. You have to do like 2,000 hours of experience in weight management before you're even eligible to take the test. So, I mean, there's a lot of requirement that goes into even getting to a point where you're allowed to, and then you have to pass it, right? So, yeah, it's like complicated. But yeah, I don't know. I should probably look. I don't know a lot about the levels because.
I was like, yeah, could you go up in your level of, up in your level in your area of expertise? So could you go and be a level 3 obesity weight management?
So it's just a credential, whether you've done it for a long time or just a little bit.
I feel like they
should
do that.
Yeah.
Although that would get even more confusing, I feel like, actually.
Yeah, so it just is how you rank as a dietitian in general, I believe, is how it works. Because there's also a lot of those specialty certifications. So you could be a certified diabetes educator, certified nutrition support person. No, because I don't work in the area of diabetes all that often.
You just have that one class.
We are allowed, it's diabetes prevention, so it's not working with actual diabetes, right? So I can see it, and I obviously have experience with diabetes, but not at the level a certified diabetes educator would. They again have thousands of hours of experience, and particularly in like insulin and how to dose it and how to manage it, which is really complicated.
A whole different like science background. That's not.
Yeah.
That's going into science and biology further than you probably did.
Well, you do, but again, on a basic level, unless you work in that area. So, I mean, it's something that I absolutely had to learn in, like, medical nutrition therapy.
But it's been a long time out of practice.
Yeah, but once you do that, if you don't go into that area, it's not something I use day to day.
And you don't need to resit your certification or anything.
Not to be an RD. What we have to do actually to maintain that is we have a 5-year recertification cycle. Is you just have to do continuing education. You have to get a certain number of continuing ed credits every 5 years to renew as a dietitian.
As in like school credits or dietitian credits?
So college
like
credits
separate
count towards it. For every college credit, you get X amount of continuing ed.
Okay.
But also you could do webinars when you attend a conference. You get continuing
education.
So
basically doing your work in a practical way kind of counts, except from seeing clients.
Basically at my actual job, I can't collect them. But if I attend anything outside or do any,
even if it's for your job.
Yeah, even if it's for my job. So like those trainings I did, the level 1 and 2 weight management trainings, I got CPEs for both of those. And that
helps usually.
Yeah, exactly. So you attend a conference, you learn a lot, you get basically credit for doing it, and that's just showing that you're not becoming a dietitian, sticking with everything you know at that moment, never changing, because nutrition changes, as we know, every day practically. And so I think
we'll get to that.
But yeah, so it's just basically so that we're making sure that people are staying on top of the most recent research, because that's a piece of being a registered dietitian, is we can't say that we're experts unless we're using evidence-based information and keeping on top of it. I'm
glad there's some industries that do that, because you look at majoritively, you look at big businesses and they're still doing things the same way, and a lot of them don't change. Then you have all these now companies that are rated one to work for,
Sure.
and they're all people who've come out these days and basically said, yeah, I don't like how companies are run, so I decided to run it by, you can wear whatever you want and kind of do whatever you want as the work kind of gets done. And
yeah, and I
it
think
needs to stay on top. And the one thing that hasn't changed is school.
yeah, yeah,
I just remember the video I saw about that, and it got me fired up.
the school just doesn't change.
That school hasn't changed. You still sit in desks. It's exactly the same as the Victorian times. You sit there, you get lectured at basically, and you do that, which, yes, works for some people, and
I think
obviously
they're trying to change it though. I mean, even at CSU, they have a
college
lot more
has a
grad
lot more
students. I think
leeway.
in grad school, I think there's a lot more application hands-on in some
There's
cases.
a lot more leeway in colleges than it is in like high school.
Yeah.
America's better than most, I think, because you don't have uniforms, you don't have certain things.
Right. Well, and I think it's funny because, like, I just can't imagine how some of these big schools go to school. Like, that's not my high school experience.
Yeah.
Because,
Because you're a tiny school.
yeah, I mean, it's out in the middle of nowhere, like 150 people.
For how many
7 through
years?
12.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like nobody. I'm like, I always think back, like, we just did practical stuff. Like, we had ag shop and wood shop. You'd go out and you have to bring a motor from home and rebuild it from scratch. You would go into the wood shop and we actually like built
And yet you
built
come
things.
out. Oh, we built stuff.
You know, we did that.
That was
and-
one thing that was weird. So when my sophomore year, we built a beer pong table first, like, before, it's basically as soon as we moved in, we're like, yeah, we've got a patio, we'll build one.
Yeah.
As college students do. And one of our friends, his dad, like, works as, like, building. He worked as a builder part-time, so he brought his dad's tools over and, like, a saw and stuff. And I was like, oh, can I have a go? He's like, oh, did you want to go? I was like, I've worked with this stuff. Like, we had to do that in school. That was
Sure.
part of school for us. I had to solder, I had to saw wood, I had to work with metal and cook and
Yeah.
make textiles. Like, we did everything, like, covered. And then I came in and, like, I had people who haven't even used, like, a mechanical saw. I'm like, well, this is weird.
Yeah, that's what's confusing to me because that's the same thing. Like, obviously, like, I'm in nutrition. My mom was a home ec teacher, so naturally here I am. But it was like, yeah, you cook and we would do like meal plans and you'd plan all of your, like, how you're going to organize your finances as an adult. And like, those were just like practical things. In my environmental science class, we had to like go dig up weeds and we did this like plot thing outside
I guess it's a lot less budget for the school, for one. So it's a lot less overhead. So that's probably why they do it. But it actually ends up being probably more beneficial because it's actual life skills.
You get a lot more. I think you get a lot more out of it.
Especially
life
for
skills.
A lot of the people you probably went to high school with haven't moved too far away probably.
No, I think, yeah,
and
a lot of
it's
people
a lot
live there.
applicable to that work environment
Yeah.
and neighborhood of working on ranches and
Yeah, well, and actually that's
Stuff like that.
true. I mean, that's why, I mean, I'm even thinking about a lot of the people in my class went on to be mechanics or do welding or to do like vocation,
I mean,
right?
you look at your sisters. I mean,
Yeah.
presume you went to the same school.
Yeah.
One lives on a ranch.
Yeah.
One's a mechanic, basically.
Yeah.
And the other one's a stay-at-home mum, essentially.
Yeah, right, yeah. So, yeah, and I think that's the thing is, like, actually it applies to the majority of people in the work that they're now doing because that's the thing. We live in a major farm community and when it's harvest season, kids miss school and things, you know, it's like that's the way it is.
I'm
They're
kind of
unmotivated.
surprised school even runs. Well, that's not like a project like this school has been assigned to this
Yeah.
like area. We're going to send this many kids to each farm to like go help. I guess you
Yeah.
probably can't legally because it's
Right.
illegal.
Right.
But
Yeah.
is it illegal?
But it's just, I don't really know. It's just a different thing though. When you're out in the middle of nowhere, people kind of just go with the flow, you know, it's like whatever.
I was just like, is it illegal to make... I don't think it's illegal to work at like your own family thing.
Yeah,
But I guess you couldn't make other people work.
Probably.
But you probably wouldn't label it as that anyway.
right.
But no, so basically, yeah, you have a lot of expertise.
Some, yeah.
In compared to most, and a lot of people who claim to be nutritionists, you
Yeah,
have...
and I think, I mean, there's a lot of people who have other specialties that are far beyond my knowledge. I mean, I think that's the thing about specializing is saying this is an area that I want to focus in, but there are some areas that I am absolutely not comfortable in. It's not things I work with every day, you know? And so it's like, and I think it's nice to narrow that down because in nutrition, like as a dietitian, the areas we're expected to be experts in range from major food service, like running a college dining system, to
or
running
college athletics.
Yeah, right. Running, being an athletic dietitian, or being experts in then meal planning, and then also shopping and also cooking, right? So
Yeah, you kind of have to have a
culinary and
general knowledge of
yeah.
everything.
So it was really important to me to try and specialize in a couple areas because I also do a lot of, and I'm working on some specialty area in like gastrointestinal health, GI stuff. But I think it's important to do that because I can't be an expert in all things, right? You want to be a jack of all
No,
trades
you need to
and an
like
expert of
keep
none.
your up-to-date knowledge about broad things, and then you have the one area you really like and you want to work
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
people come and see you for.
Right.
Which I feel like that's kind of true with all science.
Yeah.
Like doctors, you have a general knowledge of everything, but if you're a heart surgeon,
Go to a
you love
cardiologist
hearts. Yeah.
You would go to them, or you would go to an endocrinologist, or because
But
they
you have
specialize.
everyone has a good general based knowledge.
Right.
So on that terms, how wrong are the general public's idea of nutrition in general? I don't know if it's better to say like of what people, like people that come and see you generally, like how wrong their ideas are, like classes you teach, or if it's just better to speak about what you hear from other people and see on TV.
Yeah. So.
Is it different between those like kind of groups?
Yeah, I guess. The problem is that people know exactly what eating healthy looks like. I don't think that that's the problem.
No.
People come
portion
to
size they might not know.
Yeah,
though.
right. I think that there's absolutely
that
areas,
surprises everyone.
But the general idea, like people come to me and they literally say, "I know I should eat more fruits and vegetables," or "I know
Fiber.
that I overeat X,
More
Y, and
fiber.
Z." Right? They know that, and I think that's the problem. Is we know that, and yet we do nothing about it.
I guess they're kind of hoping you're gonna say, if you eat this, it will cover these 5 groups.
Yeah, it's always looking for the quick fix, right? And I think that that's just like the constant thing that we're seeking out, because people say, well, I know I should do this, but I'm hoping you're going to tell me a way I don't actually have to, tell me a way out of it kind of thing. But to speak to probably what your question means more is, people are really confused. Right? Why? Because the research changes all the time, and that's the actual scientific evidence changes often, let alone what the media catches.
And what you can keep up with.
There's a new article, a new book, a new celebrity being like, this is how I dropped 20 pounds in 2 weeks, or something like that.
I didn't eat except grass.
Yeah, or you have your, I drank lemonade with cayenne pepper in it all day, every day.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
I know, right? And so these things exist, but that's the problem is, there's not a lot of people, the media is not catching this great, huge clinical trial that gave us all this great information scientifically. They don't care about that. They care about the
how
stuff.
often does that happen anyway?
Well, right. Not
that
often.
changes massively at least.
Yeah, it can.
It might prove a new or a existing theory, I guess.
My point is it doesn't tend to highlight those kinds of things anyway. And then when it does, it's only if it's contradictory to what's been going on. And so they'll highlight this one study and say, now we have to change everything we knew, even though there's still hundreds of studies.
I feel like the opinion of fast food changed a lot as well.
Yeah.
Because no one really cared. Then it was the worst thing ever. And now it's compared to some of the meals you make at home, might not actually be too different. It's not terrible if you need a quick meal.
Well, and I think that the reason that it has changed a lot is because you go through almost these maybe not quite decades, but you go through these cycles. It was the low-fat diet. Some information came out about low-fat diets. Just like right now, we went through our paleo phase, we went through our keto, we're going through our keto phase right now, right? But same thing happened. We had Atkins phase. Everyone went low carb. Then everyone was low fat. Exactly. And now everyone's doing high protein, then everyone's doing high fat.
Oh, so high protein is huge.
Yeah, well, paleo is huge here. It originated here.
Just because I know the answer, how much protein can your body process in a day? In terms of grams?
Yeah, well, I mean, it obviously depends on your body weight, though. So, you know what I mean? It depends. So, we use a formula that's 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram, but that depends on if
0.8 to 1, so basically...
To 1 gram.
It's 150 grams in a day.
Well, maybe
if you're 150 kilos. That's big.
Yeah, if you're 150
kilos. I was thinking in pounds. That's a lot of kilos.
That's a lot. But actually, in the weightlifting kind of gym world, they use a 1 per pound, right?
So they do about 150, if not more a day.
1 per pound, right? Not 1 per kilogram, right? And so those people are getting excess amounts of protein. But again, I mean, that's a general formula we use, but it obviously depends on a lot of factors, including exercise and
BMI,
weight and gender.
General is for the average person. It's kind of just a point in the right direction rather than saying you're overweight, underweight, obese, for BMI. Because heavy weightlifters are all obese in BMI because their muscle weighs more than fat and they're 240 pounds and 5'9", but really they have 0.4% fat or whatever on them.
Sure. Yeah, BMI is not the best indicator. We use it more, it's meant to be used on a population basis.
Yeah, it's
and we often try and use it on an individual
indicator,
basis.
it's not a diagnosis kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly, because BMI only takes into account height and weight.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't speak to body composition at all. And we know that also body fat percentage, muscle mass composition, all of those kinds of things make a
retention.
Yeah, they make a big impact on our actual health status, right?
How accurate are the scales that supposedly give your body fat percentage on a general scale?
I can't speak. I mean, every scale is gonna say it's this within this.
Because I know there's one in your office that I've come to use, and then yours technically does it.
Right.
That was my brother's phone was connected to the speaker that you forgot about.
So I can't speak to the actual percentage because most of them, depending on the brand, will say if they've done any validation studies, it's within this percentage. But basically, your gold standard would be doing like a DEXA scan.
I was like, because I've physically never done one where I've done anything more than stand on a scale.
Yeah, right, and that's bioelectrical impedance, right? So with a DEXA scan, they're looking at like your bone density. They're getting
they're the ones I want to do.
Yeah, so I mean they're really expensive and they're hard. You have to almost have basically a script.
But almost
to do them.
Every gym almost has a scale that kind of gives quote unquote your fat percentage through the electrical impulses
the other
and stuff.
option, there's something called a bod pod too. It's like this little egg shaped thing that you get in. It's a chamber, so it's kind of it's not quite a DEXA.
I imagine really small.
Yeah, no, it's like you get in there and it's used as air displacement instead of like water displacement, which would be in hydrostatic weighing, underwater weighing, which used to be kind of our gold standard. There's just a lot of complications with doing that. Like clinically, that's not possible. We don't have a pool in our office.
And the weight, the cost and cleaning
we don't have a pool
the cleaning
in our
of
office.
that.
So but something like a bod pod it's quite expensive. I mean, so that's hard to get, but when you do have one, that's a better way. But that's why scales like you stand on, or often you hold the handles, and little metal things, those are all bioelectrical impedance, and they're within a few percentage, but that can make a big difference in someone who is looking down to the very point. But
but for in general looking, they're not terrible.
No, they're great
does.
for that because clinically, one, they're fairly affordable, and you can run.
And you get enough. Yeah,
you can run 20 people through it a day,
and it's not accurate enough to say we can tell that.
Right. Basically, the way that we utilize those numbers is not for pinpoint accuracy, but instead to show progress, right? Because at the end of the day, the majority of our people don't need to know down to the exact percent of their body fat. That's not the problem, right? The problem is, in general, it needs to be moving in the right direction, right? We need to get our body fat down, we need to get our weight down. So we use it as an indicator of progress rather than accuracy.
Is it one of those things that if... say I used it, and I have used it multiple times. If I used it consistently, same time, same sort of like body water content, and I went down 3%, have I gone down 3%? I just might actually be 3% higher than that. It's just reading lower.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's showing like it's probably real change. It's just maybe it's hard to say.
So the change on it's probably accurate, but it might not be the right.
It's consistent. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I was just checking that.
And that's the thing with home scales, right? Because people too have scales now you can buy at home that do body fat percentage.
I mean, I think yours technically says it does.
Does it? Yeah, I don't know.
That's a really thin strip that goes across like the ball of your foot. And I was like, yours is a whole.
Yeah, so I don't
scan.
know. What was I saying? Oh, just that it shows you like, okay, you started here, you ended up here. That's real change. But the big thing is if you're using a home scale or something, we tell people, don't compare your scale to my scale or your scale to the gym scale.
Yeah.
Use the same scale over and over again because it's not about knowing the exact number.
And the same
it's about seeing the change.
Date or the same time of day.
Yeah, that helps too. Yeah.
If you eat a large meal before your last one, I mean, don't necessarily eat a large meal again, but like don't weigh yourself after eating. Weigh consistent times, consistent
and
eating almost.
Weighing's a challenging one because actually, I mean, we have research and evidence that shows people who weigh regularly.
That's an answer to the question I asked, by the way.
What?
One of the things wrong with the general public thing of nutrition is weights everything.
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people do think
just realized that.
everything. And actually,
I think it's gone more towards body fat percentage recently.
Yeah, I find a lot more people come in caring about their body fat percentage. Like they recognize that
I feel like more,
weight's not a great measure.
In the public's eye more like, oh, this person's 4%, which is
that's
ridiculous.
True. Yeah, but I just think that weight though, like I was saying, we have evidence that suggests people who weigh regularly tend to have more success because you can monitor your change. The problem is doing some consistency, because we have day-to-day fluctuations, and so people can get discouraged easily. But like you said, it's about, same conditions. Did you go to the bathroom before you
Are
ate?
you wearing
Are you
heavier sweats?
or not clothed? Are you, and
are you really dehydrated today?
Yeah, right. You want really consistent conditions. And often that's why we say don't compare today to tomorrow, like day-to-day weights.
Do it
but rather once a week. Even if you collect data every day, the more data points you have.
Trend kind of thing.
At the end of the day, the trend has to go in the right direction, but day-to-day fluctuation shouldn't influence you. And that's really hard because there's a lot of...
People want instant results.
Yeah, they want instant results, but also
humans are impatient by nature, basically.
Anyone who has some disordered eating behavior or something like that, definitely if they see even a tiny influx, even though they know they had a meal and they're weighing so often,
I think that's one of the important things is, for some people, not for all, but if they know they had a really bad week, like they had something bad going on in their life and they ate really badly a couple of days and stuff, and then they see that they've only gone up a pound or something, and they're like, okay, so actually
I didn't ruin it all.
I didn't ruin it all. I know I ate bad. I don't want to do that. It was a one-time thing, or if they know they have a really hard emotional time, rather than killing themselves to try and stick to it.
Yeah.
You can cave, and it wouldn't necessarily be that bad.
Yeah, well, and that's why you want to keep track, so you can figure out what your threshold is for okay to align with your priorities, right? As I don't think there's any diet that requires you to have to be strict and stick to these really rigid rules, but at the same time,
you morphed one for yourself.
Yeah, whatever aligns with your priorities at the moment, though, you need to figure out what your flexibility is, and by weighing yourself regularly, you can kind of figure out, okay, this did not serve me very well compared to my goals, or I can actually go out with my friends or enjoy this occasionally, and it
doesn't make a huge impact.
No one food, one meal, one day is going to make you lose or gain weight.
It's a great segue.
You're welcome.
Into diets.
You're welcome. Oh, diets, this is what I talk about all day.
Do they work? On a broad scale, very generally speaking first, do they work?
You have to define what work means.
Do they work in what the public think that I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to lose fat?
Will people lose weight doing diets? Most of the time, yes. I would say to the question, do diets work? No. Why? Because the definition of success would be that you lose weight and maintain it for at least a year. And that's what we see that does not happen, right? So in terms of, is it successful? No. Because the goal isn't to lose weight, gain it back, and do it again a year from now, right? And so that's the problem, is most fad diets, no matter what kind, high fat, low carb, low fat, high protein, people tend... Why though? Because most of these fad diets require us to eliminate a lot of junk from our diet, right? Yeah. So even if we do it for a short term, people will often cut out the pastries or the candy or the cookies. They do that, the things that are contributing, right? And so they do have some upfront success. The problem is that
you can't live like that.
No one actually changes their behavior, right? They're just changing what we're doing for the moment. We're writing out the rules, but no one changes their behavior. So the second they, one, reach their goal, or two, get tired of it, what happens? They just go back to living how they were. That's how they got there in the first place.
Most people, I'll say.
Right. Some people do, or have a plan.
And then it probably goes the other way when it becomes unhealthy, is they're then not getting what they should be getting because they've cut out all of the carbs when you need carbs to live.
Right. And so some people, that are successful more long term, that's another struggle, right? Is that they're often deficient in some area. So I think it's I tell people this all the time. If I do keto or if I do paleo, will I lose weight? Probably.
Yeah. Because it's change. One, it's a shock to your body.
It's a shift. Well, it's a shift, and you're going to cut out a bunch of stuff that's contributing a lot of calories. At the same token.
Well, generally, I feel like people choose diets that specifically cut out what they know they eat a lot of as well.
Yeah, that's true. But on the same token, so I've had several people in my office who start keto and maybe gain weight because a calorie deficit is still required. No matter what the macronutrient composition is. It's
eat whatever you want if you're burning more than less.
You still have to eat less if you actually want to truly see weight loss, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, a challenge as well. But it's just so extreme. The sustainability is the problem. The actual scientific research, what it says about diets, is not actually about this diet's better than this diet's better than this diet.
Because there hasn't been ever scientific proof that one's better than the other.
What we see is actually, again, that all of them tend to work to some extent. We tend to have regain usually starting around 6 months. But more importantly is the diet that works is the one that you'll stick to. adherence is the biggest indicator of success. So how long can you actually do it? So when we talk about diet being sustainable, it's like, yeah, if you're not going to stick with this, it's not going to work.
So how can you like find one that works for you, like individually, like for anyone? Not that there's probably many people listening to this, but for someone who wanted to find, like, how would you suggest
schedule an appointment with a registered dietitian?
If they didn't want to spend the money and do that, how could they find out?
Yeah, well, so I think the first thing is...
Although I've always wanted to do one of those tests to find out what I'm lacking in, like deficient in.
Yeah, so
I wanted to do one of those.
Lab panel.
Yeah, I want to do one of those, but I can't afford that.
Yeah, I mean, and usually, yeah, like people who are getting their regular like annual exams and stuff, at some point they eventually start doing an annual lab, right, where they check your heart health and all of that.
Everyone normally has like one thing that they like. Why am I so like? Someone was like high in arsenic. I found that they're like
weird. So
I think it was because they ate a lot of like. I think it was one type of meat they ate, so they then basically cut out that type of meat, boosted up the stuff that takes arsenic out of the body, and so it's just like
weird. Huh.
Because there's this,
because that normal
is
lab
that
panel
stuff you
doesn't
never.
test that kind
Oh
of
no,
stuff,
he's
but,
a pro MMA fighter who has this crazy scientist on his side.
I was gonna say they're probably looking at all sorts of things like toxicology and all of that kind of stuff.
But I'd love to do that and find out. Okay, I've got really high iron, or I want to know because I know
your normal lab, like your doctor
terribly.
can do that. Your normal like lab will do your vitamin D levels, your B12, your iron, that kind of thing.
So that's a good place to start for people trying to.
Well, if they want to just know, if they're looking at their overall health, that's a good place to start. Just to make sure, do we have anything specifically I'm deficient in? But when you're thinking about like if you're trying to lose weight or something like that, as far as starting is building some awareness.
Eat less.
Even when people do pay to see me, like the first thing that I tell them is you need to track what you're doing and build an awareness of where you stand, because you can't make changes if you don't actually understand what you're doing. And a lot of people just fly by and like eat because they have to.
Yeah, people don't understand how much they actually. Yeah. The calories they intake gets to expenditure.
Always like homework from session number 1 is go track your intake, write down how much of X, Y, and Z you eat, because then that guides you. Let's not worry about these 5 things. These 2 things are the problem, and then we can address them. So first, build an awareness. Then second, use your common sense. If it's extreme and cuts out a whole food group, it's probably not the best for you. Number 2, right? A, if it's extreme.
A, B, 1, 2, either one.
Yeah, A, if it's extreme and tells you to cut out a whole food group, it's probably not the best choice. We have not seen any evidence that says absolutely do not eat this food group, right? Nothing like that exists.
Vegans talking to you.
Well, no, plant-based. Plant-based is different. I mean, it includes all of our food groups.
It's just an internet thing that vegans just love telling people that they're vegan and that's the best thing ever.
Oh, is that like one of those JP, what's his name? The guy with the red hair, the redhead guy. He does like a vegan segment. I don't know.
I know a lot of people do it. There's everyone around a lot.
But I mean, obviously, yeah, that's also kind of can be an extreme, right? Because there's a lot of things they're cutting out, but often not because of weight loss, often because of their environmental choices, religious choices,
but I feel like
things like that.
A lot of people who, if they choose to go vegan or vegetarian, that's the word, they probably don't know what to eat to bring up back all the levels that the other stuff you get from meat and the protein you get from meat.
And often that's that challenge too, because we know a plant-based diet can be really healthy, right? And actually
you just have to actually know what's in.
Leaning more towards that, even if you include meat occasionally, a more plant-based diet is probably ideal. The problem is, you're right, is that often I end up with vegans and vegetarians in my office and they've gained weight or whatever, because why? They replace meat with carbs because carbs are vegan or vegetarian.
And they haven't replaced it with the protein or the
protein, right? With
the iron supplements. And
it's hard because getting protein from plant-based sources, the volume you have to eat is a lot too. So I think that's challenging. But yeah, so A, if you cut out a whole food group, not a good idea. 2 is when we're thinking about a diet, again, it has to be sustainable. Making small actual behavior changes. What are the actual actionable items that we're going to do differently? Not just I'm going to do X, Y, and Z and have these really rigid rules, but I'm actually going to put more effort in. I'm going to cook at home. I'm going to plan. I'm, actually doing some actual changes.
What do you think, from personal experience, from client experience, from anything, is it better to lower intake or up calorie expenditure, like through working out, which is
I think
more sustainable in your opinion?
Yeah. Well,
or is it a combination?
I think absolutely it has to be a combination. I think it's a little too simplistic to look at the energy in, energy out situation. I absolutely believe that quality matters, because if we just look at energy in, energy out, it's like, yeah, you need 1,600 calories. Who cares if you get it from a Snickers bar or you get it from, whatever. And so I think quality matters. It's not as easy as saying, as long as I keep my calories here and I exercise this much. Because genetically, our metabolisms are different, gender
everyone's
differences,
different regardless.
right? So I don't think that it's quite as simple as that. But as far as the two things, I think that what the evidence tells us is that changes to diet are probably the most effective, not necessarily always the case, but the most effective.
Sustainable?
Yeah, well, not necessarily. It depends on the person. Sometimes I have people who come to me and they're like, I can exercise. I don't know how to change my diet.
Yeah, I don't want to eat less.
I want to eat less. I'm not willing to exercise. Right? I hear both sides of that.
Both ways.
But I think more effective to lose weight with exercise, or with eating, changing your eating, and maintenance relies more on exercise.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier to lose that weight quicker through eating, because it's physically, if you cut your calories in half, basically your body just starts burning and wasting away.
Well, and that's what we just talk about, is like the amount, and this is totally like random, I don't know if it's even close, but you'll get the point, is that like to eat, to change the calories from a couple Oreos, to cut them out, we have to vacuum for 5 hours or whatever it is. Like the amount you have to exercise,
the calories burn is ridiculous.
Yeah, to equal that same deficit is just a lot harder to achieve. And so we find that usually, weight loss can be accomplished a little more quickly and more consistently with changes to diet. That said, you cannot wait till you've lost weight to start exercising.
No,
it
because
needs
your body
to be a
won't
piece of it.
deal.
And it's also going to help with the body composition we were talking about. If we're only worried about weight, trying to cut a bunch of calories and dropping people might, but they tend to lose muscle then, right? And if you want to maintain muscle while you lose weight, you have to be exercising. So it's like really critical.
Do you think wearable technology has helped people?
Accelerometers and pedometers.
The Apple Watch. Step tracking. Do you think that's helped? I know that's more the exercise based, not the nutrition side, but the extra calories you expended, or you need to get up and be active, or people competing now on.
Yeah, I think it helps in two ways. One, building awareness. People before maybe
they didn't know that they weren't burning calories properly.
Yeah, so I think it helps in that way. And second...
I was sat down for 10 hours today.
Yeah, and second, I think, like you said, I think it presents that challenge. Whether they're competing with themselves, I want to get more steps than I did, or with a friend.
Well, it's even you and my mum, it's always party on my wrist, I've hit my goals today. It's a good thing, and I feel like...
I love that party on my wrist.
Everyone always says that goals are one thing that keeps people going.
Yes. Well, yeah, and we see that in the literature, too. Setting goals and actionable items. It tends to be the thing that works, right? But
it used to be really hard to be accountable for them, because you could never really track your calorie expenditure until these came out, really.
Right. But there's a major downside, and what I think
people focus on it.
Well, that's one of two downsides. Yes, sometimes it becomes obsessive, or people rely so heavily on those numbers that they also have their own flaws. There's a huge there's a huge percentage of error in a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or whatever.
It's again it's like the scales. It's a general rule, not a
right. And they're probably getting better.
Answer.
I mean, now they've been around for long enough.
Oh, they have to. Technology is always getting better.
But I think the harder part is a lot of times on those kinds of things, it'll say something like, "You've burned 1,000 calories," and then people think that means I get to eat an extra. You know, and that's not how it works.
No.
And so I see that a lot of justification.
Even though I think
I ate extra, or I ate more because I burned all of this, and it's actually like, well, no, your calorie needs are taking into account your expected exercise.
Yeah.
So if we count for them double, we're overeating, right? And so I see that a lot where we get this justification, or it overestimates. I was just having brunch with a friend of mine, and she has a Fitbit, and she was showing us some data, because I just got this one to actually test for a class. And so
is that why you got it?
Yeah, so I was
like, when I saw it, I was like, hang on, that's not your watch.
Yeah, so for that diabetes prevention program I teach, the people who run it, they send it to us because this is what the participants get when they reach a certain milestone.
Oh, okay,
so they wanted us to test it out. And so I was showing her, and she's showing me, I'm like, you did a 20-minute swim? And she's like, oh, sometimes when I do the dishes, it counts me as swimming. And I was like, okay.
How the hell does she do the dishes?
That's what I said. I was like, but I guess because her arms are moving, or maybe because it got wet. I don't know.
I doubt it could tell it got wet.
Yeah, I have no
but
idea.
It might be the almond.
But I was just like, okay. And the other day I was laying in bed and I was just like 20 short of my 10,000. So I started just like throwing my hands in the air like I was having
It's
a
not
party,
accurate.
and
no.
it counted my steps, you know? And I was like, I knew that was obviously not correct. But what I'm saying is that it's hard to know that it's accurate for people when it's counting stuff like that.
Even when you have that, you don't try and cheat it.
No, right. And I think, like you said, it's a way better indicator than we've ever had.
Oh yeah, there wasn't an indicator.
I think of it a lot.
The indicator was I can't breathe, I'm on the floor dying. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know what you've done.
I kind of come from the realm of a lot like with the realm of a lot like with the body composition, that it's not about pinpoint accuracy.
It's just
it's
a general
about progress,
consistency, seeing data.
Yes, exactly. We have data points, we have progress, so we know, okay, I'm averaging 5,000. I'm going to try and average closer to 7,000. That's still a change
Is
from
it
what a
proven that
calculation
data
is.
helps with?
What do you mean?
I guess goals in general would probably be the way I was going. Like, if you can see your progress towards the goal rather than just having the goal and saying I got there. Is there like?
I bet there might be evidence. I don't know what like the research says
I feel like
about
there
that.
must be.
I would say it differs to me by personality type. I have the client who comes in and says, I want to know calorie. I just had someone actually.
I want to know everything along the way. I mean, my sister.
Well, I just had someone
OCD
recently
people
who's like, I'm going to put together a spreadsheet and I'm going to, put
Which if they do,
every
great.
this and, and this, and this. I'm going to have 100 data points because they were a numbers-oriented person. And then I have also the person
there's
who's
definitely people numbers help.
totally overwhelmed and is like, I don't want to talk about numbers. I just want to like have a vegetable on my plate. Who cares how much it is? Like that kind of thing. So
I feel like for those people though, if at the end of like 2 months of them doing stuff, you could show them, hey, look at this like graph. Look at this trend.
We keep data, and so that's what we do. Because a lot of times, especially for those people, because we weigh them in, we
like
get
you
their
almost
body
gave
count,
them a
we get all of
Fitbit,
that.
but they couldn't see the data.
Yeah, and for some people, they might wear it, and we have an app with some of our classes where they track a lot of it, but like the reports they might not care about, but we have access to them. So that way, if it was interesting, or in our individual appointments, I track
Like if they're really down, you say, hey, look at the progress you've made.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that's our job, is to also recognize small progress. Because again, even if we say
nothing's instant, basically.
Even if we say it, people are so fixated on weight. They could have added 2 cups of vegetables, started running twice a week, and maybe they only lost a half a pound, and they're fixated on, I wanted to lose more. And I'm like, look at all this great stuff
yeah,
we did,
you need to almost like not show.
I know, it's
I'm sure there's some people you probably wish that they couldn't see the numbers.
Yeah, and some
they
people
could just
actually request not to, or in some situations
well, because there's
we have them
so
not.
many people that you see like the one that pops in mind. I don't know why I watched this. I was on YouTube, the YouTube realm, a lovely place. But it was he was a bodybuilder and personal trainer, like certified personal trainer, and he was I think it was like 80 kilos, and he was like, I want to get fat to know what it's like for the people who come in and speak to me and say I want to get thin. Like he wanted to go through it. So in a year, he went up to 120 kilos. He put on 40 kilos and lost it again within a year. Like he took 6 months to put it on, 6 months to take it off. And when he started taking it off, he was like, I don't want to know the weight. I know what I'm putting in. I know roughly where I think I should be, but don't tell me.
Yeah.
Like I just kind of want to know. It was like, I feel better instantly, like from doing this. Like it to him, it was, I feel better. I can now run further. I can lift heavier. I can do this. Like it was the internal factors of like I feel so much healthier that he didn't look at the numbers, even though he was basically an OCD model who's always about his meals and eating and stuff. He had gained a whole new perspective. Like I just feel 10 times better right now.
And actually, that's something that like we often encourage in the style of counseling that we do. Obviously, I'm in weight management and obesity, so weighing people is something that I have to do pretty much on a daily basis. However, we try and focus all of our sessions around
how do you feel?
Yeah. What is your appetite like? Are you eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full?
How do you feel mentally?
Do you have energy?
Yeah.
Do you feel mentally
do you sleep
acute,
better? You
focused, concentrated? Are you performing well at school? Are you performing well in your exercise? Like trying to focus on things that are actually like that matter on a day-to-day basis, because
numbers don't.
Weight doesn't dictate if we feel good at school or if we have good energy or those kinds of things. But often when we're at a higher weight than we want to be, those things are affected, right? But when we eat, it's like eating impacts so many other little pieces, and so we try and focus on those things. And if weight loss is your ultimate goal, great. In the background we can keep tracking these things, but let's focus on addressing these things that are immediately affecting you, right? Like your energy levels affecting you today.
Yeah. Do the people who focus more on that stuff generally do better, or do you not know? I'm just thinking out loud.
I don't know. I would say just in thinking about several of cases that I've seen, I think they tend to be a little more motivated because they have some initial motivation. If you change your diet tomorrow, you might feel better energy, or you might feel like your exercise session.
And
so it's much faster.
It's also probably kind of placebo.
Yeah, that's true. But
like instant gratification.
It can be much faster because just as much as like not skipping breakfast can help you focus in class.
Yeah.
So I think it can be motivating because if you can encourage people to focus on that early on, they can build some momentum. And then they're feeling like, well, I noticed this, and like I've had people be like, oh, well, my skin's clear and I have energy and I have an appetite every day.
I think skin's one thing that would surprise people.
And then they're like, so now I want to keep doing this because it feels great.
Yeah.
And then you can get into the nitty-gritty and the hard stuff.
I think that's when people like get hooked on working out a lot recently, because they realize I feel great, better mentally, better physically.
That's exercise for me. I do not like, I do not like exercising that much.
Yeah, need to get you back in the gym.
I know, I do. It's been a minute. But
I'm trying a new drink, by the way. Ice wine from...
Are you going to put it on ice? It was cold, right? I don't think you should. It'll water it down.
I don't know. I might just drink it out of the bottle. It's basically like a shooter bottle, and it was a gift from your wedding, basically.
Ice wine's like tiny too. Well, because
it's basically really expensive grapes and really sweet wine.
I'll ask.
It's frozen grapes, isn't it?
Because they were telling us that basically what they do is ice wine is made when the grape crops freeze,
and there's
they
less,
get like a tiny
there's
drop
like less
of
drops
nectar.
out, and that's why it's so expensive, because it's so hard to make.
They were saying you get like 1 drop per grape, and that's how they like make this. So it's like, is it just sweet wine? Let me see.
That's like liquid honey.
Yeah,
that's like drinking honey.
Yeah, that is what it's supposed to be.
Not cold anymore, really, because it's been sat on the side for a while. But that's basically liquid honey.
I like that.
This is the white. What's the red? I have no idea what the red would taste like.
The red one
basically, this tastes like...
But it's a dessert wine. So
I don't drink wine, so I don't really have...
Well, it's like dessert wine. That's why you don't have a lot, because it's just...
I might just put it in here because I want it cold, but...
Okay.
I've tried it without, but... Yeah, that's basically like liquid honey.
You distracted me.
Instant gratification, people...
Something about nature.
I don't know, but you said something about like people skipping breakfast, which takes me on to the next topic that I was going to go to, onto fasting.
Oh, yeah. I just did...
One?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was like, because you got interviewed by Men's Health about fasting, even though you basically had done no work on fasting.
Well, I mean, not no work. It's just not a specialty area of mine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of weight loss, right? So it's
Do
something
you know why you got chosen for that, by the way?
No, I mean, they just asked if there was someone at CSU who was willing to speak on the topic. And I'm willing to. I mean, I had sessions today where I talked to people about fasting. It's not an area I don't know about. It's just not like, it's not something I'd encourage. So it's not something that like...
Well, that's what I was like. So do you think it's good or bad? And is there science behind it either way?
There is actually there's science in both directions. There's some science suggesting that there's improvements in health, sometimes in energy. We see some in relation to like blood sugar.
So weird.
It is.
I'm drinking honey. It's weird.
In terms of like blood sugar regulation, so there's some evidence that it can be positive. I would just say the way most people do it isn't good, right? They're just like, oh, I'm just gonna skip all my meals in the day, or like there's a lot of instances where people are coupling it with exercise. The problem with that is they're not.
Yeah, you're
they're
not
like,
used to that.
exercise fasted number one, and then my fast period is still 2 hours after, so they don't recover either.
Well, I did do that for a long time, but that's because I went on, 9-hour window of eating, I think I did, for 2 months.
Yeah.
12 till 9. Because the interesting thing that people probably don't realise is basically your fasting stops as soon as you have anything that isn't water. Right. Because your enzymes start in your stomach. Like if you have a coffee at 8 a.m, your cycle started. So if you want to be on a 10-hour cycle, you have to stop by, quick math, 6.
Don't ask me for quick math.
I think 6. Like that'd be a 10-hour window. It's when the first thing that's not water goes in. So I did 12 till 9 because I realised I could go in the morning. I don't drink coffee. I didn't have to, so I just had water throughout. And I wanted to eat later at night because we don't have dinner until like 9 o'clock sometimes, so I had to make it late as possible.
Definitely, like with the other diets we talked about, people have success. Kind of what I even spoke to in my interview was the fact that the reason it tends to work is particularly the time-restricted type. Yeah. Right?
That's the one that I've seen the most on and heard most people doing and having success with.
Why it works for the most part, I mean, there's some of this metabolic, physiological stuff, but for the most part, why it works is because the time that we eat the most junk is after dinner, late at night when we're bored. And if you set a time, I cannot eat following 7 o'clock, after dinner you don't eat again, that cuts out most of the junk you put in your diet.
I think it was Jimmy Carr, randomly on a different podcast. He was like, they're like, how did you lose, like, I don't know what he lost, like, he basically lost the fat around his neck and stuff, like, he looked thinner. He was like, I just stopped eating after 6.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't stop drinking and stop other stuff. I mean, I don't think he drank at that time anyway, he was, like, sober, but it wasn't, I stopped doing everything, it was, I stopped eating.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I don't know if there's science behind this, the eating late that your body can't digest it while you're sleeping, like, properly.
Yeah, there is definitely some things like about digestion while you're sleeping and eating late at night and how it affects hormone levels and all of those kinds of things. So there is some evidence behind that, but the bigger thing is we really view it more as like a bank account for people who do shift work, for people it's like how it fits in with your circadian rhythm, right, and that kind of thing. But for people who are up later,
who are night owls, who are awake until 2 a.m.
If you eat dinner at 6 p.m., but you're someone who stays up till 1 p.m.
you're
or 1
gonna have
a.m.,
something, basically.
you're probably going to need a snack, because the recommendation remains you should eat every 3 to 4 hours.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Is that a meal, or is that...
Or snack. Meal or snack. But that's about how often...
How much would that be there? So if you wake up at like 7, so 8
so
to like 12...
like 3 meals, 2 snacks
12
for most people?
to 4, 4 to 8... 8 to... I mean, that's a long day though if you go 8 to 12 again.
Yeah.
That was on 4-hour increments.
Yeah, so it depends. Yeah, so like if you had breakfast
that sounds
today,
like 3 meals and a snack. Which is probably what most people had. They probably go breakfast, lunch...
Yeah, a lot of people...
Snack,
so
dinner.
one way you could do it is for people who wake up early, they might have like that 10 a.m. snack between breakfast. But
which sometimes you do.
Yeah, I do almost every day, but I also don't eat a big breakfast. If I have breakfast, that kind of is my breakfast.
Yeah.
I usually take my apple and peanut butter to have at like 10. But... typically people are, when they need it the most, is like the most that people describe to me is that like 3 o'clock wall. I'm done, I'm tired, I'm not focused, I have no energy. That's the time, because we've had lunch at noon.
I was like, is that why lunches are getting later?
Yeah, maybe, because people are starving.
I feel like a lot of people now lunch more towards 1 than 11.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think it differs, because there's still people who, if you work in kind of a typical workplace, like sometimes their lunch is at 11 or something, which to me, I'm like, that seems like breakfast.
Well, the only time I ever had the only time I had like a strict lunch was when I worked, and it was, you couldn't all go on lunch at the same time. So I always chose the later one.
Yeah.
Because then I'd have less time when I came back from lunch.
Yeah.
For work left. Like I could leave quicker
after.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that kind of depends, on when you have it. But yeah, so it all is dependent on your schedule, right? But if you're around an every 3 to 4 hour schedule, then why that 3 to 4 hour recommendation is there is because that's about the time when we've used some carbohydrate or we start to need
our sugar levels kind of drop almost.
Yeah, we start to need to replace energy. That's how we keep a really stable, even keel kind of energy carbohydrate level, that kind of thing.
So why does the time restricted help? Why is that the best one then?
Well, like I said, I mean, because it sets a limit for when you can start and stop eating.
But
so
it's just
because
of that.
It tends to be overnight, it's just more consistent.
I was going to say, does it help that when you're time restricting, I had to think about I ate lunch at 12, because by that time I was probably a little hungry. Yeah. And then my last meal was always at the end, because you want it as late as possible, because you've got whatever gap I had, a 13-hour gap where I couldn't eat or whatever.
Right. And so it
kind
has
of
a lot
structure.
to do with what they were looking at in a lot of those studies were like pathways, like insulin pathways and things like that, and how they respond, and having that. It's usually, I think, in the ones where it showed some improvements for
most people do a 10 to 11.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
mine was I went super short, but I knew I could do it.
The ones that showed some evidence for like carbohydrate control, things like that, I think it was like around 12 hours was kind of the sweet spot.
But most people think, I've got a 12-hour cycle.
But then,
normally they don't. They've got like 17 hours.
I got a lot of people going to the extreme of doing it like a 16-hour, and I'm like, ugh, and you're exercising. When are you going to recover? When are you going to pre-workout?
Well, that's like, most people think their cycle is probably like a 12-hour one. But if you think of like most people, you've had something that probably isn't water by, we'll be generous, 9. And the last thing you have that probably isn't water, I mean, on good days 9, but quite often later, you just have like a snack, or you take snacks to bed and you have them like 11, and then you're already at a 14-hour cycle.
Well, and I think that's a
late.
challenge too, because also just a societal kind of thing. I think dinners have gotten later, people work later, or the family's all in different directions, so by the time you get everyone
and you
home,
socialize now, when you get home you don't eat dinner.
Yeah, you're eating dinner at 8 p.m. I think it makes it really challenging to get very long of a fast.
Because a lot of people probably wake up at like 5 or 6, have a coffee instantly.
The way that I'm seeing people do it now is they're like not eating till lunchtime, right?
That was, to me, was the best way, because I know I could survive. For people who don't drink coffee and need caffeine to survive.
Right.
you can go at least until 10 without something. Yeah, you might be a little hungry, but if you're busy, you know you can get through that anyway. Like, you don't think about it. And the later you leave it, the later you can like eat in the evening. And if you are true in time restricted fasting, you don't have anything off except from water after 9, means you can't have a glass of wine.
Sure.
Like, you want to make it as late as possible so you can enjoy a drink with dinner or something. That's why I left mine so late, because I knew I could survive. And I was like, we don't eat till late, and I probably want a drink. Like, if I have a beer or something, I'm not going to have a beer at 12 all the time. I want to have it later, so I'm not drinking alone and seeming depressed.
Yeah, that's a good call.
It's happened before. I mean, my aunt rang my mum, was like, is he okay? And I was like, when my mum was like, are you okay? I was like, yeah. She was like, no worries. Your aunt was just wondering. It's like reading too much into Instagram.
Just having a drink.
Yeah. We'll go into some, I titled this quick tips, but you don't have to answer them quickly. It was just me thinking of like general nutrition questions that people might have, but you don't have to answer quickly necessarily. What is the area most people lack in nutritionally that you see?
Vegetables.
And fruits, or just vegetables?
I mean, they lack in both, but I mean...
Mine's fruit. Mine's vegetables is way up.
I think you're weird, because generally people like fruit. Why? Because people
like
tend
smoothies.
towards sweet,
yeah.
Right? But I find more people not only don't eat vegetables, but also don't like them, so it's harder to get. Whereas people might not get enough fruit, but they tend to like it, so it's a little bit easier.
How would you suggest getting into vegetables? That sounds weird.
Oh, yeah. How do we get more vegetables? Well, I have so many ideas. First of all, again, exploring ones that you like. A lot of people say, though, I like vegetables, but I'm not sure how to cook them. So I often tell people, think about, have you ever had them where someone else cooked them for you that you really enjoy?
Yeah, or
so
like see them at a restaurant or something.
or in a restaurant, you'd order them, so you know that you like them, because then you can start exploring. Or it's like, next time you go to the store, pick one vegetable that you've not tried before, right? It's pretty,
I'm surprised you haven't done that for me. After I said I want to try new things.
Yeah, but we cook a lot of vegetables here. So
but nothing's ever new.
That's true. We do a lot of the same. Broccoli, asparagus.
Well, just our meals are generally quite similar. They're healthy, but we go through like a cycle of, we haven't had this for a while, and then we have it like 3 weeks in a row. And I was like, we haven't had this for a while.
We also do a little bit seasonally, right? I mean, like, when
true.
Different things we'll have more often.
So
like,
obviously
squash is not good right now.
Yeah. So go and try something new.
Trying new ones. And not even, like, a lot of people feel like, I need vegetables, so they go and buy a million things, and then they waste it, because they have no idea what to do with it. So usually I just say, pick one. Go to the store and pick one.
Generally good way to cook them if you don't know how to cook them?
I always say roasting. Steaming.
You can't go wrong with roasting, I feel like.
Steaming is the easiest, because you can buy
the
steamer
some you
bag.
want crunchy.
Well, that's the thing. I think texturally that's the worst idea.
Yeah, if you don't want like things like mushy.
Yeah.
Don't.
So unless you're already into vegetables, I think steaming is quite hard, because I'm even not that big of a fan of steamed eggs.
There are some that I like steamed and some that I don't.
They're softer. They can be a little slimier.
Like, I don't mind broccoli steamed, but you hate broccoli steamed.
Yeah, right. So I think that steaming is the easiest, but I typically recommend roasting. Why? Because it gives it texture and it gives it more flavor. It's not bland, it's not slimy, whatever.
So first one's just go and try a new thing. Mm-hmm. Another thing for people to get into vegetables. We'll just go with 2.
Another way to get into vegetables. Good question.
Is smoothies an answer?
You could get fruit and vegetables from smoothies.
Well, a lot of them now I feel like have kale or other stuff thrown in.
Definitely you're going to get some of the nutritional
stuff.
value, but the point of getting a lot of fruits and vegetables, and the reason the recommendation is so high, is because of the fiber. And you lose a lot of that when you juice it.
Always eat more fiber than you think.
Fiber's the answer.
Fiber is impossible to reach your daily recommended allowance for a man.
It's hard. It's definitely hard. It's not impossible, but it's hard. But
not with those tortillas. Tortillas.
So my second suggestion.
Like, if someone came to you and said, I need to have more vegetables, I don't mind trying them, but how?
I know a lot.
Does it accompany the first one?
So,
something that accompanies, like, trying a random one?
No.
Put them with something you do like?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Like, could make almost like a stir fry where it's almost like all in there and you like the rest of the vegetables and the meat or something.
Yeah, that's a one way too, is if there's something you already make where you can toss them in and they're not like on their own, because sometimes when they're standalone, they're kind of intimidating.
Like, I hate trying to think. Like, I tried sprouts with bacon, because that's how Tom cooked them. I try things like in soup when they're blended together, you
Yeah,
kind of
but
get like the taste of them.
you wouldn't eat a plate of spaghetti squash on its own.
No.
But because we put our bolognese
That'd
sauce
be
over it,
weird.
you like
yeah,
it, right?
you try it with, I guess,
So that
almost
I think
replace something
Yeah.
or add it to something
just
you really
add
like.
it on the side or put it in, like if it's mixed in, like we always just dump a bag of mixed veggies in whatever sauce we make. Because why? Because you put them in there. But also, I was going to say, I just didn't want to be that cliche dietitian and be like, eat salads. And I don't think that's
I still don't think I've
necessity.
ever ordered a salad.
Yeah.
Like anywhere.
But one of the reason I often end up at this is because a lot of people are worried about the prep time and that. And so people often know if they like salad. Because they're like, okay, I'm willing to eat. But now you can buy so many of
Mixed
these, like,
bags
you can buy these salad kits that aren't just lettuce anymore, right? They have some seeds or nuts or like dried fruit.
Or you can go make your own, like a
Yeah.
Sprouts. You go through all those drawers and go pick out.
So oftentimes when people are asking for just easy ways to incorporate it, it's not easy if you're brand new to vegetables because some people hate salad or the idea of it. But if people are into it or they say, I'd never do it at home, but I get it at the restaurant, I'd be like, great, there's
go
these salad
find this
kits.
meal pack,
It's because then it's not changing a lot of prep time. It's literally something you just set on the side of what
I feel
you're
that's why a lot of
cooking.
people don't cook as well, which is probably why people are unhealthy, because people either overestimate the prep time, don't know what to do for cooking, or they just don't like doing it.
Because what would you say? For the meals that we make, the average time is 30 minutes or less? Easily?
Easily for prep.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them take longer than that for cooking because we Traeger the meats or we oven roast slow.
Yeah, anything
purpose,
the meats because we're
actual prep time is really low considering.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, 30 minutes when you get you don't want to do it when you get home from work, but if you get back at 5:30, you don't have to start doing it until 6:30, and you could be having dinner at 7.
Yeah.
If not 7:30 with 30 minutes cooking or something.
That's the thing. We eat a lot of vegetables. We eat a lot of just variety in general.
Yeah.
They're always So
it's always different. It's not always the same person cooking.
But at the same time, I also have a skill set, right? So there's a lot of people who are like not comfortable cooking. So
people who don't like. All of us in this house know how to chop up vegetables and season and throw them in, if it comes to it.
Right, so you have help, number one, but number two also is there's a confidence. Half of my job is building self-efficacy. How do I make you feel confident that you can chop these up ahead of time?
Or know it would taste good.
Knife, right? So that's why we do a lot of our cooking stuff, because it's about just building basic skills, like being around food.
Portion
the
sizes.
more you experience it, the more you see it and touch it and handle it. Like, we often try and incorporate in our cooking classes something weird that people haven't had or some ingredient.
Just so they know how to deal with it.
It's a really low-risk way. They haven't paid for that ingredient. If they decide they don't like
That's
it,
what
it's not like
I
they
always
made
love
a
on
ton
cooking
of it.
shows. They're like, I've never dealt with this before, and then they're just like, but it looks like this. It kind of has the texture of this, so I'm going to cook it like
Use
that.
it in the same way.
Yeah, you kind of just go with it. Like if you don't know what you're doing, just think of like what it reminds you of and kind of go off that.
And I think that's
It's
intimidating.
not always true, but
that's intimidating for people because if they're really uncomfortable,
especially if they don't like cooking.
Yeah, if they don't like it or they've just never done it, that's really scary to try and just be like, okay, I'm just gonna wing it.
Teach your children how to cook.
Because they've also spent money on it, right? And that's a high risk situation.
That's why I hate trying things because a lot of the things I want to try are expensive. Like going out and buying sushi, if you don't like it, is almost $15 down the drain, regardless.
Right.
Whereas I could go have a Big Mac for $1 or something.
Right.
Don't like Big Macs, but point taken. Common misconceptions about nutrition.
Oh, I think we've been through probably a
I know,
lot
just
of them. Let me think.
Off the top of your head, just don't go into detail. Just name things that people come in and you're just like, where the hell did you get this from?
Common misconceptions that
portion sizes. I'm going to say that now. I've said it a lot throughout this, but portion sizes.
It's not really a misconception. I think just people aren't educated on it, right? They don't really know.
About a third of what you think, probably.
I would say really popular one right now is that coconut oil can cure all, right?
Cress is great. Cress cures all.
Yeah, so that's what Thomas thinks. That watercress is gonna save the world.
Is it watercress here or is it just cress here? That's why I said cress.
Well, you can't really find either. They're difficult to find in the store. So coconut oil is one common misconception that it's gonna save the world.
Trust in the internet.
Just the media. Dr. Oz. Period. Right. I mean, every time that we
something comes out,
someone hears something and then they do it, and it's not usually a good outcome. What else? Right now, there's a really big controversy about eggs because a recent article came out saying eggs are bad again. So they were good, they were bad, they were good. Now they're bad again.
Aren't they just decent for protein and taste good?
Well, I mean, yes, those things are true.
What's bad about them? What are people saying bad about, apart from eating chickens?
So they're
basically
essentially saying that they're associated with chronic disease risk, right? And so the challenge is it was a really poorly done study. It was one study, and it was based on self-reported data.
I was like, aren't they one of the things that we've eaten for like the longest? Like bread, meat, and eggs. I feel because we just found eggs and we decided to eat them.
Yeah, I don't.
We haven't had
know about their origin
starfruit
story,
all the time,
but
not global wide, but
I don't know about that, but in general, it's like they're a really high quality protein. We often compare other protein to the protein quality of eggs.
It's a low quality protein.
Like plant proteins often, not that they're not good for you, they're low quality in regards to they don't have all the essential amino acids. Meaning
so they just have like the big ones.
So you know how you hear a lot about like pairing them. You need to have this and this to make a complete protein, basically.
Where's meat?
Meat's a complete protein.
So meat's a high quality one?
Yeah, high quality in regards to the types of protein
of what's
it
in
has,
it, like
right?
what it contains.
It's hard to say high quality because people think that you're saying that means that's healthy and this is not. That's not.
Well, no, that's what I was like, I didn't know where meat came on a
that's
scale.
not what it means. But essentially, when we're talking about completeness of protein, so like all of our animal products tend to be
higher because it's taken from what they've eaten.
Well, they just have all the right amino acids. But also like quinoa is like a grain that is a complete protein, which is a weird one. But usually it's things like bread and peanut butter. You need the two together because neither on its own is complete.
Bread's not protein, is it?
No, but it has some. It has some of these amino acids in it, right? And so it's not a protein food.
Things like you learn every day living with a nutritionist.
You eat all of these things together. You have to pair them, beans and rice, because beans itself doesn't have it, rice itself doesn't have it, but the two together.
And people always think bad about like combining carbs with carbs, but really it's...
Well, it has some...
Like
protein, beans are a plant-based protein, so I wouldn't count them there.
Well, no, but people always like, why do I have two sets of protein in there when really sometimes it's needed?
Yeah, it is. And especially if you're like eating a plant-based diet, you have to.
So, I'm one-word answer for this one. Are there any quick fixes?
No.
Yep, excellent. Knew that. And if you could only give one piece of nutritional advice, what would it be?
Oh.
Don't trust the internet. Stop tying knots in my head on my microphone as well.
One piece of advice. There's just so much. One piece of advice. Consult with a registered dietitian.
I'll take that as advice. Okay? See, normally now, I go into stories of the week, or like news stories that I've heard about or interested in talking about this week. I've heard of none this week that I haven't already spoken about that last week. Have you got any news stories that have...
News stories about nutrition?
No, anything in general. This is just general news around the world.
Oh, fun.
Because like the last one I did, the plane crash.
Oh.
And a couple of things, and this I've got nothing except from Brexit, and Brexit's just confusing for everyone.
For all the people, news stories.
Have you heard anything this weird this week?
I don't get out much, so I don't.
Well, no, but you're always on Facebook and stuff. Is there anything that's been? Because I couldn't find anything, and I was like trying to look before tonight, and I was like, I have no news stories that have like really popped into my mind this week. I mean, I thought, Premier League's back, but that's just because. We have fantasy.
Yankees opening day.
I was going to say baseball, but I was like, is that news?
Get hyped. Yes. Yeah, that's newsworthy, absolutely. And
baseball is back.
They killed it. Baseball's back.
Baseball back in March Madness. I'm doing well, I'd say at the moment.
I'm doing pretty. Actually,
Auburn won, so.
Okay. Well, we're probably tied.
Pick that. I'm happy about that one.
Yeah, opening day. That's the news.
I was like, the only thing I can think of was sports this week. I was like, Premier League's back, baseball's starting, it's March Madness, and I had nothing else.
Yeah, go Yankees.
Which basically means we're at the end, which means we're on to quickfire questions.
I thought that's what we just did.
They were quick tips for that. Quickfire questions are general, not based about nutrition. So these are just general questions.
Oh, good.
Answer them quickly, but you can take time to explain if you need to.
Okay. Like yes or no, answer them quickly, or?
No, like give your answer and then be like, okay, so I thought this. This is why I said this.
Never good. Okay.
What is the most ridiculous thing you spend or waste money on?
Clothes.
I was going for house decorations for you.
Ooh, house decor. Good. Yeah. Okay, that's like a top two.
Favorite TV show at the moment?
Miranda.
You haven't watched that recently, have you? Yeah. I was going Law and Order because you and Tom keep watching it.
Well, Criminal Minds, like I own that on DVD. Like I love that show, but I've seen them all. I've seen all Miranda several times.
I was going to say, you've seen all of them, haven't you? For like
anything like British comedy's good. Miranda.
British TV at the moment. Biggest letdown of last year?
Ooh. Biggest letdown. Lots of letdowns.
Yankees.
Rude.
It might let you down, I don't know, but I was like...
Biggest letdown. Let me think about that.
It's quick fire questions, not think about questions.
Well, I just don't know. I don't have like a. There's nothing that I'm.
If there isn't anything, then there isn't
I'm not
anything.
hanging on to anything. Biggest letdown of last year.
Not going on holiday? Well, you did.
I did. We went to England.
And Australia.
Not last. Yeah, that was I guess.
You were there for New Year's, but.
Yeah. Biggest letdown of last year was that.
Didn't get another puppy.
Yes, and I didn't get rich.
Okay, we'll go with that. How many books did you read last year? Negative books or just none?
Negative books.
You read any?
I don't read.
I count workbooks. Like if you read.
Well, but this is the thing. I don't read books. You read articles and things like
True.
that. But books.
If
Probably none.
If like all the articles you read got put into a magazine, like how many magazines would it be?
Quite a few. I mean, you read a couple.
We'll count them,
few
'cause-
articals a week. I mean, like
Don't look at
we're
me
in
with those
articles
eyes.
all the time.
You do, I don't.
Yeah, we do.
So several magazines, nutritional magazines.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I just when
like
I was
once a
talking,
month.
I mean, well, a
That
magazine
many?
a month, maybe, yeah. Because yeah, you're reading articles day in and day out just about different things or different clients are seeing. Because I was just talking to your mom. She left that book for me, and I was like, I'm totally gonna read books now. And
She left a book?
Yeah, but then I let my mom take it because she was reading it. But no, because
Not that I read books, but
I want to read, and especially for leisure, I just, particularly because I'm reading all the time at work, I'm like tired
and then you
of
read
reading.
Facebook.
Yeah, which I should probably do. Maybe that's something I should work on. I should set as a resolution. I need to read more real books and for fun, like fun things.
What would be your talent in a pageant?
Oh, my talent in a pageant would probably be juggling.
I know I did know you could juggle. I was like, hang on, I thought that was Tom, but no. What would be your
yeah, right.
What he can? He taught
Can he?
himself.
Yeah, I
What
probably
would be
taught him.
your karaoke song?
Jolene.
Oh, I was expecting.
Thomas.
I was expecting weirder from you.
Let's ask Thomas, see if you heard that.
Tom.
Just don't get her to sing.
What would you
He
say
said, "Don't get her to sing."
What's my karaoke song?
Probably Jolene.
Jolene, it is. And then
Mostly that makes him the most miserable.
the final question: how did we meet? And we already went over this because I live
Well,
with you. But
yeah, I'm married to your brother.
yeah, we met at CB and Potts, which is a restaurant in Fort Collins,
Yes, that's
during the playoffs. Pretty sure it was a Broncos game. Might not have been playoffs.
That's true.
Wasn't playoffs because it was October.
That's
It
true.
was a Broncos game on
That
a.
CB and Potts isn't even there anymore.
No, it's actually been
It's like a
demolished now, I
historical
think, as
location
well.
For us.
But no, that is. It was in November, was it? Okay, it was in November. Still wasn't playoffs. But that is the end of the podcast. As always, if you enjoyed it, please feel free to share it. And if you know anyone with good stories or want to come on yourself, just let me know. And if not, this is the end.